Welcome to the workshop. So last year at this time, I started renovating our primary bedroom. I started by gutting the existing closets and crafting custom walnut build-ins with lined drawers, lights that flick on when you open the door to grab for clothes, and hand-carved brass and walnut handles. That project done, it's time to solve another quality of life issue in our bedroom. Let's check it out. Okay, I'm stuck in the corner of the bedroom with this reading lamp. And not only is it about to fall off the wall, but it also has these exposed cords. I have an aversion to exposed cords. Nothing screams thoughtlessly designed than exposed cords. So we need to fix this. One fix is as simple as yanking and replacing with new hollow drywall anchors. But why? Those lamps suck. And so do all the chintzy disposable lamps on Amazon, which means I need to build something custom. Only problem, the South Bend lathe isn't restored and ready to turn brass lamp parts yet. So I have a different solution. In order to solve our reading lamp woes, I'm going to build a picture frame, which admittedly makes no sense. So bear with me as I cut this plywood and I'll try to explain what I'm making. Those frames don't have a solid plywood backing, but this one will. I cut all the edges perfectly square so that I won't have any issues with my miter joints when I add the walnut surround. To attach that walnut, I'll be using dominoes. Better these hidden connections than a bunch of nail holes everywhere. I cut these now because order of operation. I also need a bunch of nailing strips that I'll be using as spacers or standoffs. They're just a bunch of 2-inch rip cuts on the table saw. All these pieces are then cut to length with the chop saw. To attach all these standoff pieces, I'm using a staple gun with 5/8 inch narrow crowns. This will be just enough holding power to keep everything in position until the wood glue dries. And most importantly, they aren't so long that they'll blow through the front side of the plywood. Speaking of which, this is the back of the frame. The standoffs aren't installed flush with the plywood backer because I need to leave room to wrap this edge with dimmable LED strip lights. This being the replacement illumination solution for the old bedside reading lamps. The front side gets standoffs as well. 3 sets of them actually. See, I couldn't purchase a print monumental enough in size and scale to fit the space above the bed, so I had Nations Photo Lab print 3 separate metal prints for me that I'll be able to assemble into the single monumental photo I envisioned. I'm installing these 3 sets of blocking to pull the thin metal prints off the surface of the plywood backer. The way the frame is constructed, this will create depth around the edges of the prints and afford the frame some additional 3-dimensionality. Last step, a quick matte black rattle canning around the edges and at the seams to help with that depth effect. Take note, it's important not to paint the edges where the walnut gets glued to the plywood, as that would ruin the bonding action of the glue. Okay. This part's gonna be super fun. The mailman just came. He delivered the prints. So let's clear off our work surface. I'll bring them in here, we'll open them up, and I'll show you what prints I ordered. So these photos are really special. Every spring for my birthday, Madeline and I make a trip to southern Utah to camp, backpack, and explore with the dogs. This year we explored Bears Ears, which I'd never been to. And for 2 nights in between adventures, we camped just north of Monument Valley. This triptych of prints is a stormy sunset photo I took while relaxing with them at our distributed Bureau of Land Management van camp. It's stunning. I hope you understand why we want it hung over the bed. These prints are legitimately amazing. Nations Photo Lab did a great job. They're not a sponsor. Let's be honest, I've got 46 followers right now. No one's giving me anything for free. Anyway, let's go get some walnut cut up and we'll finish this frame. My shop has every tool I need except a joiner. I plan on restoring all these old hand planes to do the job, but I haven't gotten that far. It hasn't been a problem until now, but if I pause, you'll see just how much tension has been released from the wood. That's not great, And it could be a huge issue, but I'm going to sail forward and hope that I can bend that out in the glue up. If not, I've got a really lucrative career coming up as a boat builder. So the only detail I want on the walnut surround is a simple, large chamfer detail. I'm cutting that in with the table saw tilted at 30 degrees. I settled on that angle solely because I want the detail to start in line with the front face of the metal prints and also have a 3/8 inch flat. From there, it's just a matter of sanding all the edges smooth, marking corners where the miters will be cut, and then using the chop saw to cut those miters. It's important that the corners fit together perfectly. Then we just need to use the domino to cut matching slots in the walnut. These I cut just a little wider, so I'll have some lateral wiggle room. Okay, time to dry fit everything together. The dominoes, they're a really snug fit. Best way to get them out, grab them with some Cobra pliers and give that a gentle tap backwards. So the walnut surround has been successfully dry fit to the frame, and it went together pretty well. These 3 Bessie pipe clamps were enough force to pull everything together and get rid of the bow. There's just one problem, and it's the same problem jointers and carpenters have the world around. I don't have clamps long enough to squeeze this piece end to end. So here's what I did. So I screwed 3 of these UJK parf guides into the MFT table at each side of the frame. I then used these scrap pieces of walnut as wedges to squeeze everything together, and it worked perfectly. The only spot it didn't is this corner here. Why? It's because this long piece of walnut has a little bit of a twist in it at the corner where it's important. So I've mocked up this piece of poplar as a shim to squeeze everything together and make my miter joint just absolutely perfect. It's held in place by this Veritas clamp. I love these things. So now the only thing left to do is to disassemble the dry fit jig and to do the final glue up on the walnut surround. As with any large or complicated glue up, it really pays to have everything figured out well beforehand. Why? Well, it gets stressful if you're having to figure out why some part doesn't fit or fighting to remove the twist we had while the glue is drying. No one needs that stress. Besides, it makes for a better final product. Anyway, the time that lets you see my order of operations. In reality, this took about 15 minutes, a lifetime when glue was relatively set up in only 30. So it's the next morning. I gave the frame surround a full overnight to dry. I just removed all the pipe clamps and things look good. Not only are the miters tight, but the frame surround seems really solid also. I think the dominoes and glue did their job. Now it's time to switch modalities. We need to flip this thing over and work on getting it illuminated. To start, I'm using some old black silicone to block any potential light leaks between the plywood and the walnut. Probably unnecessary, but if there were, how embarrassing. Anyway, this is what I bought for the LEDs. A 12-volt dimmer, a roll of 3000 Kelvin LED strips, and a Meanwhile power supply. Installation of the LEDs is simple, as it comes with a sticky backer, and it's flexy enough to go around the corners. Then, when you get back to the start, it's just a matter of cutting on one of the copper lines, and then soldering wires to the minuscule tabs. Pay attention to polarity, it matters with LEDs. Fixed with a zip tie, these strips can't possibly come off the frame. And it works! Amazing! Okay, so there's just one remaining piece of electrical installation we need to finish. Back in the beginning of this film, I said we couldn't have any exposed wires because they look like garbage, and this is 2025. We shouldn't have to look at them. Problem is, we have a ton of them. We need to fix this. The place we do that is back in the bedroom. Come on, let's go. Some people have an aversion to cutting holes in their walls. I don't, I love it. But you can't just bury wires behind drywall. Fire Marshal Bill frowns upon that, and though I don't like rules, that's actually a good one. So after fishing wires from a spot that no one will ever see behind the frame and down low behind the bed, I'm installing these remodeler boxes and then using coaxial plate covers to tidy everything up. Okay, back in the workshop. This is my version of wood finish. It's a mixture of tung oil, thinned with D-limonene citrus solvent, and some beeswax, all melted together. It's all natural and smells pretty okay too. It brings a ton of life to the walnut. Eventually, it'll polymerize and harden into a finish more than durable enough for this frame. The final step before we can call the frame finished is to attach the metal prints. I'm attaching them 2 different ways. So anytime you need to bond 2 dissimilar materials, as we are with the wooden frame and aluminum print, epoxy is an excellent choice. Here, I'm using West Systems G-Flex, a 2-part flexible marine-grade epoxy, the same stuff I use to adhere scales to knives. The bonding force of this stuff is outrageous. But it's also expensive, so I'll just drop dabs at the corners. In between, I'll use double-sided tape. This alone likely has enough holding power to permanently adhere the prints, but it'll hang above the bed, and I don't want to wake up some night with that in my face. So epoxy and tape it is. Importantly, nothing sticks without proper prep, so the backside of each print was sanded and wiped clean with acetone. Okay, I don't know exactly what happened, but we had a little bit of a camera snafu. I'm the only one in the workshop and I do everything here, so it can only be blamed on me, but I don't have footage of me attaching the prints to the frame. I don't know where it went. Either way, I think you guys get the picture. There's 8 dabs of epoxy, 1 at the end of each of the stretchers. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold everything together. Either way, it looks spectacular. I can't wait to get this on the wall. We're gonna give it 12 full hours, and in the morning, Madeline and I'm gonna request her assistance. Madeline and I will hang it above the bed. It's really heavy. I hope we don't drop it. That's not foreshadowing, I hope. Check this out. It looks so good. The LEDs are bright enough to replace those janky reading lamps, and they're on a dimmer so we can dial them in just right. Here's the thing though, this picture frame, just like the closet I'm looking at and this bed, they're single design elements in the bedroom. They're meant to work harmoniously together, but there's so much more we have yet to do. I'm sure you noticed the blue tape on the wall. I put that there to help Madeline and I visualize what comes next. Eventually, I need to build custom bedside tables. And above them, I think it would look great to have double pair of walnut columns as well as walnut beams running on the ceiling. The goal is to add texture, warmth, and 3-dimensionality to the room. Not only will this be more visually interesting than the white box we started with, but I can also add a ton of functionality. Adding beams to the ceiling will allow me the opportunity to add more reflected light. Then we can get rid of that garish boomer bright light that all these suburban houses seem to have in the center of the ceiling. I also have a solution to integrate tower fans into the structure of the room. That'll afford us more airflow while we're sleeping. Anyway, thanks for sticking around and watching. There's plenty more to come. If you enjoyed this project, subscribe to see a bunch more like it and the eventual transformation of this whole house. As always, enjoy.